you had said on Air Force One that the president would not consider a commutation of his sentence.
Yeah,
that you're saying that still stands? Okay, great. And then I heard you earlier in the briefing talking about the pandemic's role in the outcome of this election. And it sounds like that is being looked at internally as potentially one of the causes of this outcome. But Richie Torres, the congressman, tweeted, Donald Trump has no greater friend than the far left, which has managed to alienate historic numbers of Latinos, Blacks, Asians, and Jews from the Democratic Party with absurdities like defund the police or from the river to the sea or Latinx. Is the administration, campaign, the Democratic Party looking at the pandemic as the cause rather than, is that easier than looking in the mirror?
So look, let's step back here. I think I've been, and the president and the vice president has been pretty clear in understanding that the American people have spoken and respecting that. I think we have tried to be incredibly respectful of what happened 2 nights ago. And we're going to continue to do that. And I'm not going to speak to every person in the Democratic Party who has an opinion or a thought. I'm just not. It is not something that I'm going to do. I talked about the political toll on incumbent parties around the world as a data point, right? As something that we have seen pretty consistently with G7 allies in this time. And obviously, one of the things that occurred was the pandemic. It did. It caused disruption. It caused the supply chain to be disrupted and and caused the economy to be turned upside down. While we put policies, and we are in fact leading the world on the economy, it doesn't stop the fact that there has been a political toll for incumbents. That is something that I'm telling you as a data point to share, because we know that you guys would have questions. That's a data point that I'm using. And I'm also saying that there's going to be election experts in the next days, weeks, months, who are going to, again, looking under the hood, kick the tires, trying to figure out exactly what happened 2 nights ago. And so they're the pundits. They're going to speak to that. They're the experts, and so we'll have more information as they look at the data. And so we'll leave that to them. And so I'm offering you our perspective, our thoughts, how we're going to move forward in the next 74 days. And I think what Americans should be assured of is that this is a president that's going to put the American people first. That's what people could be assured for.
Is examination happening at all inside, though? Because as Gabe mentioned, this administration messaged to millions of Americans that they're going to wake up day after the election if Trump won and have their rights stripped away, that democracy would crumble, and the president said today we're going to be okay. So how do you square that?
I can't square that. I'm going to square that in a way that hopefully makes sense, because I've been answering this question multiple times. The American people made the decision. There was an election 2 nights ago. There was. And it was a free and fair election. And we respect the election process. We do. And Americans spoke. And so the job of the president is to make sure we respect that. The job of the president is to make sure that we have a peaceful transfer of power. That is what the American people deserve. And that's what we're going to, it's not complicated. It's truly as simple as that. As simple as that. The president called the president-elect, invited him to the White House. You know why? Because that's customary. That is customary. That is what you do. If you respect what the American people decided, that's what you do. And that's what the president's going to make sure that the Trump transition has what it needs, which is being led obviously by our chief of staff here. Why? Because the president wants to lead by example. It's not complicated. It really isn't. And that's important.
By example, is the message to people who are fearful based on what the messaging was about the stakes?
Well, now you're just twisting everything around, and that's really unfair. No, it is. No, Jackie, it's unfair, because I've been standing here trying to be very respectful to what happened the last 2 nights ago. Being respectful. I've been standing here saying that we respect the decision that the American people made. I've been standing here and saying that the president's going to put the American people first. I've been standing here talking about how the president's going to make sure that they get what they deserve, which is a peaceful transfer of power. I do not appreciate having my words twisted. That is, I have been very clear, very, very, very clear about what the president wants to do, and the vice president. We want to make sure that we deliver for the American people. They deserve a peaceful transfer of power, and that's what you're going to see. Thanks, everybody.
What does the president think about young people in America saying things like, "We are all Hamas and long live Hamas"?
I will say, look, this is a president that has been, since he's been in office, and the reason why he ran has been very clear about what he witnessed in Charlottesville. Let's not forget what we saw, the anti-Semitism, the bigotry, the hate that we saw in the street of Charlottesville, which, as I just stated, was one of the reasons that he decided to run. And no president has taken more action to combat anti-Semitism than this president. And so, in our national strategy, we made clear that when Jews are targeted because of their beliefs, because of their identity, or when Israel is singled out because of anti-Jewish hatred, that is anti-Semitism. And that is completely, completely unacceptable.
I do have to ask you about a different topic.
Oh,
Why is President Biden saying that his uncle Bozie was eaten by cannibals?
so, I answered this question yesterday. I believe I've seen some clips on your network about me answering this question. I don't have much to say beyond what I said to some of your colleagues. Look, I was there. I think you traveled with us too to Pennsylvania. I'm not sure if you were there at the memorial in Scranton. The president had a emotional and I think a symbolic moment. He had an opportunity as president to honor his uncle's service in uniform. He had an opportunity to be there as president, to speak to the bravery of his uncle, and not just his uncle, but many U.S. service members that put their lives on the line on behalf of this country. So his uncle, who lost his life when the military aircraft he was on crashed in the Pacific after taking off near New Guinea, the president highlighted his uncle's story as he made the case for honoring our sacred commitment to equip those we send to war and take care of them and their families when they come home. And as he iterated, the last thing American veterans are, or the last thing Americans should be called, are suckers and losers. And that is, those types of words should not come from a commander-in-chief, as we have in the past. And we should actually be lifting up our American veterans and honoring them. And that's what you saw from this president.
And I agree. Second Lieutenant Ambrose J. Finnegan was a war hero, but the Pentagon says, for unknown reasons, the plane was forced to ditch in the ocean. Both engines failed at low altitude. Why is President Biden saying he was shot down? There's no evidence of that. And why is he saying that his uncle was eaten by cannibals? That is a bad way to go.
He lost his life. It's not, look, I'm not, we should not make jokes about this.
Not.
Wait.
President Biden said that his uncle was eaten by cannibals.
I mean, your last line is, it's for a laugh. It's for a funny statement. And he takes this very seriously. His uncle, who served and protected this country, lost his life serving. And that should matter. You have a president that lifts up our U.S. troops, our American veterans, every day, who thinks about them, who actually thinks they're all heroes, and they are. And you have a former president who disrespects that, who doesn't honor that. Said it as president, suckers or losers. That's what he said.
Where did the cannibalism come from?
But I think you're missing the point. The point is you have a president that lifts up American veterans, who lifts up our U.S. service members. And that's what matters. He understands how critical and how important it is to be commander-in-chief. I'm going to move on. Go ahead.
Does the president support the UAW's efforts to unionize this Volkswagen plant in Tennessee? Has he been involved at all or in touch with Shawn Fain?
So I'm going to let, obviously, the union speak for themselves. I'm not going to comment on what's currently happening. You hear the president say this. He was in Pittsburgh. You saw how how union members reacts to this president. He is the most pro-union president ever. And we're going to continue to lift up union members. We believe that they should certainly be paid fairly. We believe that they should get a contract that is fair. And we've said that over and over again as it relates to this particular situation that's happening. I'm just not going to speak to it. I'm going to let the union deal. Okay.
Karine, I know you alluded to this, and you said that you didn't want to speculate, but we're not asking for speculation. We're asking for an official response. And given that U.S. taxpayers give more than $3 billion each year for military defense systems to Israel, shouldn't Americans have a response from this administration more than 12 hours after this attack?
I appreciate the question, and I understand the importance of the American people, who, you are correct, they are taxpayers. And I want to be incredibly mindful here, and I understand the interest here. And I am going to continue to say, I'm not going to speak to this or speculate about the reports out there. That's not going to change, and just going to be super mindful.
So last week, the president warned Iran. He said don't when he was asked his message to Iran about retaliation. They did it anyway. He urged Israel to show restraint, and Israel, according to the reporting, has retaliated. Does the U.S. have any leverage in the region?
I know this is not going to be satisfying. I'm not going to speak to any of the reports out there. I'm just not going to do that. Not going to speculate. I will say, and you've heard this from my NSC colleagues, and you've heard this from many of us here at the White House. The president and the prime minister have a long-standing relationship that goes decades. And because of that long-standing relationship, they are able to speak very honestly with each other and have difficult conversations when it's necessary. That is the type of friendship that they have. I'm just not going to speak to any of the events that's been reported. Yeah, Justin.
Thanks, Karine. I appreciate you aren't ready to speak to it right now, but I don't think we're expecting to hear from you guys again until Tuesday. Can you make some sort of commitment to, brief on this before the middle of next week?
Look, what I will say is that I don't have any schedule to announce or anything to share about, speaking on the reports that are out there or making a comment. I wouldn't expect anything further beyond today. But again, want to be super mindful. Not going to speak to this. Not going to give comments. No, I understand, but it's hard for me to say to you before Monday. I don't have anything in the docket. I don't have any schedule to speak to at this moment, at this time. I just can't speculate or speak to any of the reports that are being, any of the reporting from the event overnight.